All right, welcome. This is Josh Walitt, and we're going to take a look at how to access the Fannie Mae selling guide. So the first thing we're going to do to be sure we're taking a look at the most up-to-date version is we're going to just go online rather than looking at some sort of saved PDF or paper version. And we're just going to go to fanniemae.com. We're going to click on the single family section. Let's click over here. You can see selling guide, and then it has the most recent version of the selling guide over here on the left, so we can actually click right there. I have one open already, so we're not going to wait for that. Here it is. It pops up when you click on that, and we can see we can go right to the table of contents by clicking over here on the left, table of contents, and we can scroll down to section B4, where we're going to see a lot of the appraisal requirements. So if you're performing an appraisal review, but you're not really sure a requirement on a certain aspect of the appraisal or a certain part of that property or some complexity in the assignment or property or market, you can actually take a look. And let's just take a look at all the different sections that really readily apply to appraisal. So we're still scrolling to B4. Here we have subpart B4, underwriting property in the top half of the screen there. We can see B4.1 is the appraisal requirements. And then we have B4.1.1, general appraisal requirements, documentation standards. You can take a look at information about forms and exhibits. So you can see here, if I actually click on these blue items, we're just going to jump to that type of report. And I can see here appraisal report assessment B4.1.3. Let's just click on those words. It says it's going to take us to page 532, and it just jumps us right there to the appraisal report assessment. We can start scrolling through and taking a look. If I actually want to approach it differently, I can just click on table of contents again. There we are, back at the table of contents, and I can go right to a specific section by opening up the table of contents on the left. Depending on how your PDF viewer shows it, it may look a little different on your screen, but let's go to the appraisal requirement. So pretty much got to the same section, just a little bit different way, using the table of contents a little bit differently. So let's go into our find feature in the PDF, and let's look for septic, because I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to handle it. Or if I'm reviewing a report, I'm not really sure that appraiser handled the septic properly, and I want to be sure. So let's take a look. It jumps me right over to the Site Utilities section in this appraisal section of the Fannie Mae Selling Guide, and we can read through and take a look. We can see that it's telling us for mortgage loans to be eligible for purchase or securitization, the utilities must meet community standards. And if public sewer or water facilities, those that are supplied and regulated by the local government, so they define what they mean by public, are not available, community or private well and septic facilities must be available and utilized by the subject property. The owners of the subject property must have the right to access those facilities. So that's something we would expect to be talked about in those particular situations, which must be viable on an ongoing basis. And private well or septic facilities must be located on the subject site unless the subject property has the right to access off-site private facilities, and there's an adequate legally binding agreement for access and maintenance. And let me make special note right now, don't take my word for it by watching this video. You need to look up the most recent version of the Fannie Mae Selling Guide to see if they have changed this slightly since this video was made. If we scroll through, we can see how market resistance to these types of utilities must be handled in the appraisal and what the underwriter should be looking for. So again, if you're reviewing possibly for mortgage underwriting purposes, then this would be important for you to know. You can see it goes on to other different related site-related topics. Here's privately maintained streets. But I'm actually interested in gross living areas. So let's come back to our search feature. Again, yours might look differently depending on how the PDF viewer that you're using appears, but let's look for gross living area. And it's going to bring us right to the section in this that has the gross living area discussed. We can, as you can see, we can click right on these blue words if we wanted to, or we can scroll down to find them, or we could probably click this search arrow that I'm using in my PDF viewer to find the next occurrence of the word gross living. But I'm going to just click on the blue link, and it bumps me right over to gross living area, and I can take a look and see what are they expecting in terms of gross living area. Maybe I'm interested because a tri-level was handled a certain way rather than showing basement. It added it all together, and I want to see what does Fannie Mae really say about this, or maybe some other issues in terms of gross living area. And you can see down here, it does actually talk about deviation from the standard above and below grade process. So you'd want to take a look and see what does the selling guide say. You can do the same in the HUD handbook as well, because they have slightly different ways of discussing these issues. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief look at how you access the Fannie Mae selling guide, and then how you take a look at specific topics as you need to, whether you are writing an appraisal report or reviewing an appraisal report. Thanks again.